And then obviously, as you mentioned, the other big player in Mouse that was instrumental in the success and MVP was ropz, right? There's an interesting angle on this one as well that people don't know. So here's another one of my sayings that encapsulates something in like a pithy way. So, when fans say what you said earlier, like they're pro players, they know how to play the game. I agree, right? All pro players at the top level know how to play the game. But here's the saying. They know how to play the game for themselves. They might not know how to play in mouse sports. They might not know how to play in Na'Vi. So that's the challenge, obviously, the coach and in-game leader have. So tell us this story. You've told it on a few shows, etc. But I think for this conversation, it's a really good one because it's another example of how some players you turn loose and it's the opposite. You tell them, listen, I'm giving you everything, bro. You do everything you want. But ropz was a very weird example where what he thought he should do, the example you gave was Mirage, where he thought on CT side, he's Rain. That he's just going to play like the ramp area on A, and he's just going to, in that position, unless you are in from like late 2017, you just kill one person and then they refrag you. That's what happens. That's how the Mirage A site works when they run out. So basically, the best player in lurker, probably X on X player on the team, is dying first every time they go A on Mirage. So instead, they had to tell him, Legia, even though that's what you want to do, if we can put you here, I think you put him, Catwalk at that point in time? Was it Cat?
No, Connector.
Sorry, yes. They said we put you here. You can like get this frag, and control the game. You're rotating. Like, tell us this story. Like, what was the epiphany here? Because you must have, like you said before, you wanted to let him do what he wanted initially, right? To learn about him.
Yeah. So you have to think it this way, right? We are a pretty young team in that scenario. ropz's role has always been in the old mouse spots. He is kind of just a quiet guy, just doing his own thing, playing A-side Mirage, and just kind of adapting, right? He was not taking decision initiative as he is now, but I needed someone else to step up in these scenarios, right? Doing the right decisions in Connector. Connector is incredible important position. That's not just about aiming. It's about positioning, flashbang, team play, communication, stacking A on the right timing. You have insanely responsibility there, right? Frozen played Connector, and he is a skilled player. He knows when to do what, and he will. But he will not understand the game yet like ropz does. He's trying to read the game, right? And I needed ropz to be more activated on the CT side and not only playing the echo position, right? Especially in Mirage, I felt like, or me and the coach, and I felt like it was the right position where we could try to force ropz out of his comfort zone. And he also agreed it would be nice to try something else because everybody knew how he played on a Mirage. But I think what have happened really with ropz the last year, played with him, he has really evolved into, I would say, close to kind of all of personality. His way of reading the game, he comes with ideas, he say, hey Finn, let's do this. And he just goes out on nuke at the first guy, flashing in, jumping through smokes, and just goes full crazy. Because what he has been reading during the rounds. So he starts actually, and I didn't have that in the beginning with ropz, but he started to acknowledge like, okay, if I want to go somewhere, I need to tell Finn how to set me up. So he came with the idea to me and said, like, if ropz is saying it, bro, it's 100%. He's a machine. He wants to go for it, we let him go, right? And the same goes with ropz. So there is two players in the team I would always give the go ahead for. Where they say I trust it blindly. So that would be Nico Guardian in phase, right? Nico, I say, let's go up A. I have a good feeling. Okay, we just do it. Or Guardian saying, I want a PK, you just do it. So I always have two players that give blindfold trust to. Because if they have that trust that they can say at this moment, I want to do this, and I call it, they feel like, okay, now I'm going to prove myself that this is the right thing to do at the right moment. And they get involved in the gameplay as well. That means suddenly it's not the way I'm thinking. If suddenly I have a bad feeling about their game, I'm not really feeling the call, suddenly ropz comes with a call out of nowhere and said, this we can do right now. And I think that's really underrated to have a team, not kind of a secondary caller, but players take initiative because they see something they can't explain on 15 seconds.
Yes.
And I think that's why I feel like ropz is evolving to be kind of all of players, and he's still so young in his career, bro. Like this guy is the most hardworking guy I ever played with, and I can tell you I play with a lot of guys. The way he works is different. He doesn't just play FPL. He sits, suddenly he meets up to practice one day. He found from CT spawn on Vertigo, he can smoke B lobby from 3 different positions. He just does that himself. He comes to next practice, start doing stuff, and we all look at him in spawn. He didn't even say anything to us. He just starts walking spawn, throwing smokes. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you know, like that kind of personality, he will do everything also to win. And I think in his age and his motivation, he's going to become one of the greatest. In 5 years, everybody's going to talk about ropz. Because being a star player in a lurking role, bro, it's impossible because if it goes really good with the team, you're never gonna get 30 frags.
Yes.
If it goes bad in the team, yeah, you're gonna get in clutch scenario, you're gonna be like a kind of a beta, but that's how we set him up because, in my opinion, he's the best lurker at the moment in the world. Rifle lurking, decision making, small sides playing. He is the best player in that scenario right now, I feel like.
It's crazy from how fast this kid actually has evolved from playing FPL. When was it?
Insane.
2017?
Yeah, this has been in Mouse for like 3 years, right? This is only pro team. And he played with Chris's in-game leader, Sonny, and then me, right? It's not like we've been through like a Danish school with Hund and Katie and Asilian, like through all in-game leaders. Yes. So I think the first time he's actually playing with a real in-game leader, and also think he's evolving. And he also talks towards me back. Like, he comes to the ideas how we can improve, right? And I think that comes with the confidence. He is a position where everybody listens to him in the team. Like, he's a surf god, he's an aim god, he's a smoke god. Like, he's good at everything, right? And he actually starts becoming good in understanding when to call what. And that's also see, like, he's a complete player right now. That was what I was missing 1 year ago from much, but he's definitely stepped it up now because he can do crazy moves in every aspect of the game mechanically. But he needed that experience more, and I think he obviously got some from how I read the game and how he understands. And I think he's just the most complete player I have seen in a while in that regard. With so short time I worked with him.
Yeah.
To me, that's actually the biggest area that is still, this will be like the last thing. That's the biggest area in Counter-Strike that is untapped, that we haven't yet like dove into. There are still star players. I'll give you a spoiler. We might have mentioned some of them earlier in the show. There are still players who literally the reason they're the best player is they're just like amazing talents. Like, they can just play an FPL, keyword play. They just play the game. They do the scrims. Yeah, if they're at a boot camp, they watch the demos, but they watch the demos with the coach in the IGL. Like, they watch what he's showing them. Like, here's the tactic. Here's what the opponent's going to do. But what they don't do is what a professional sportsman does. They don't go in the demo themselves on their own and do their work. And that's why when you tell me that story about ropz, dude, that's exciting. Because I know he has the skills. If I know he's studying as well. When I heard that story 2 years ago about how Device was looking at heat maps of the other AWPers to figure out where they're more like that, that's where you get really excited, because that's where you can max your potential out. Like, I won't say names, but there are some amazing star players where I'm not joking. If you ask them at an after party, like, do you ever watch demos yourself? They'd be like, nah, why would I do that, bro? That's the coach does that. And it's like, mate, if you just studied it, like in the NFL's the best example. If you're like a wide receiver or a defensive player, right? They just study like all the matchups they're going to get. And they look at what there's that guy's tendency like, right? If he's leaning on this foot, I can get him on this route on the right, like they need to know that because they're already good. If they have that extra knowledge, that's like the cheat code, dude. Like,
so they have like massive registers to learn even?
Yeah, and the whole thing is you're just asking them to learn only in their position though. They don't need to learn everything for everyone else. Just get your role. What do you think about this, karrigan?
I mean, the best example for me is like kind of to describe ropz is like, I will just spend time to finding grenades and execute and stuff like this. But I know if I find some ropz, he will do it his own way anyway. So I just tell him, you're just going to stand here, you can find your own mark, and then throw smoke, and within a few minutes, he find it already. Or if not, he will find it for tomorrow. So that's because he has a talent for the game, but also willing to work his ass off. He's living CS, right? And if you have a talent, and you're basically living CS, you don't care about anything else, you are going to perform on a high level. And I think that comes down to mentality. And that's a thing you never know from players, right? You don't know how ropz will react if you're number one. Will he still work hard? This guy's going to work hard 24/7. You know that. But other players you don't know, because the moment you reach the top, you don't know how it feels to get all the way down. And I think the best thing that could happen to me was that actually ropz got to the top with mouse sports, was an amazing player, ranked top 20 in the world, but made a huge drop off, had a slump in individual playstyle. But I came back in and he knew how hard he'd been working for like 6-8 months to get back a level, but didn't get it. But I come in and he kind of believed in everything again, right? And now he knows that he needs to stay on top of his game all the time and not into the same situation he did with the old mouse sports where he's kind of dropping off individually, right? But right now he's performing out of his mind for, I don't know, since day one I arrived.
Yes.
And that's what I mean. Yeah, sorry, Finn.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, I also try to coach the person of Robin. Robin is a very specific person. I'm not going to tell him when he does a mistake. He knows already. if he even does a mistake, right? Because often he will tell how we did a mistake as a team or how we moved, because he doesn't do mistakes, and it's not often to say about that about a player, but he does 99% out of 100%. He does the decision well thought through. There's not a reason why he jumped through the smoke unless there was a reason for it, and we explain you in detail why he did it. And that's why, therefore, I'm never touching Robin the way he understands the game or anything, because he has a very unique way of seeing it and improving all the time himself. So I'm never gonna question him, and I think that's very unique to a player, and that you always can trust working hard.
Have you ever had a player like this?
No, never. Not in this way, right? I had players playing a lot FPL.
Yeah,
playing,
of course.
but this guy is working differently. Like, he's playing DM, aimbots. I know at bootcamp, he's just sitting aimbots, then he watch some TV show, then he sits aimbots again. Yeah, he just sits constantly playing, right? And he just comes in, looks at you, saying, I'm ready to play. He goes and he just starts tapping headshots. He has a specific gift to this game. That's how I see it. And he's only 21 now, or 22 maximum. And he's like, when he get also to play another players in the lineup, right? Right now he's the experienced player, but let's say he get to play with other players he can get even more experience from, right? Because he only played with few experienced players, if you ask me. The old Mousesports and me. Rest is actually players under his experience level.
Yes.
That means what he can learn right now is self-taught. And that's unique, because normally you would learn a lot from other players. So right now he's just self-taught at the moment, the last 1.5 years.
I have one player that I always compare him to, or two players that I always compare with each other. It's ropz and Elish, kinda, because I always have the same feeling of them. Very, very hardworking. Elish, obviously, he's been playing like professional, like StarCraft and whatsoever. He knows how to work for himself, and he always reminds us for some reason of that. Obviously, they don't play necessarily the same role.
No, I can see it. Like for example, super smart guys, like also like really like chill personalities. Like you almost have to push them to be a star player, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that.
That just reminds me when you talk about that, because like I say, it's an exciting prospect to know someone with talent's working that hard. Everyone knows that famous saying, right? That goes, hard work beats talent if talent refuses to work hard. But they all stop listening after that comma. They all go, hard work beats talent. And you normally just tell it when you've got bad players, right? You try to tell them, like, look, guys, if we work together, we can beat fucking Simple if we like to. What they don't listen to is, I need the star player to listen to that. Because if you listen to the second part, unless talent works hard, bro, if you're the talent, you can't be beaten if you work hard. Like at that point, you got the game on lockdown. That's the dream of every in-game leader and coach, is that your star player, they want it like you do as the in-game leader. They're in the demos. They're in their own demos, though. They're in their opponent star players' demos, everything, getting all that shit.